Hello, my name is Sheridan Ripley, and I'd like to welcome you to the Introduction to Childbirth Choices online class. I have 3 boys, and I've had 3 very different birth experiences. My first son was born by emergency cesarean, my second son was born vaginally with an epidural, and my third son was born without any medication and using hypnobabies. I had such a wonderful birth experience with Bryson, my third son, that it inspired me to become a hypnobabies instructor and then to also become a hypnodoula. So I have been teaching hypnobabies since 2006 and been a doula since then as well. These classes are not hypnobabies classes, but they are safe for moms using hypnosis for childbirth. I've kept the terminology appropriate. I love being able to help expecting moms from all over the world, and I do this by moderating the Hypnobabies Yahoo group. And I also have a birth blog called Enjoy Birth. It's from this desire to help expecting parents that I decided to create these online classes to help parents have better information in making choices that are important to their birth. Each segment is set up in a brain-friendly way. They're short segments lasting approximately 15 minutes and broken into sections that are easy to relate to with the most important topics covered. I'll share interesting stories that will help bring to life what you learn and will help you remember what is most important to you. And I will also provide links in case you want to learn more about the topics. I know you'll enjoy yourself as you learn today about some of your choices during birth and why it's important to know what they are. Why is it important? Well, 80 to 90% of American moms today end up with about 16 different attachments to them during their birthing time, and they're stuck in bed. For high-risk moms, all of these different attachments might be necessary, or at least some of them, but to routinely do it to every single mom in low-risk moms is a little bit over the top, and then can lead to other unnecessary interventions as well. You do have a lot of options during your birth. I know I had a dad that took this series, and by the end of the class he said, "I thought my only choice was epidural or no epidural." It's not that simple. There's a lot of different choices, but if you don't know your options, then you really don't have any at all, and you'll end up looking like the first mom, with lots of wires coming out of you from many different locations. The World Health Organization has said, in normal birth, there should be a valid reason to interfere with the natural process. Remember that it's your body and your baby, and you are in charge. Your care providers are there as lifeguards. When you go to the beach and you're swimming, are the lifeguards out there instructing you how to swim? No. They're watching, able to jump in and help in case any emergency arises. And that's how it should be with birth as well. That your care provider should be watching and ready to help if something happens, but other than that, they should really step back and let things unfold naturally. I'd like you to take a minute and imagine that you're planning a big party and you need to hire a caterer. How would you go about picking one out? Maybe you'd search the internet and come up with a few choices. Maybe your friend used one and recommended him. So you take time to meet with the caterer and let him know what you are wanting for the party. Maybe you want to have a nice salad, a dinner with some chicken, and then some lovely dessert trays. Well, the caterer says to you, "Well, I can do the salad, but I always serve fish. It's much more convenient for me, so I won't do chicken. Only fish. And no dessert because there's just too many calories in that. So we'll just have fruit trays. And it will cost you $2,000. Would you hire this caterer? I imagine no. I imagine you would continue searching and find one who will provide the services that you want. People spend hours and hours and thousands of dollars planning the ideal wedding day. Isn't your birthday just as important as your wedding day? It is certainly worth taking the time to find the ideal care provider for you to help you have the best experience possible. When hiring a care provider, it's important to realize that they have certain routines they like to follow. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but you want to make sure that their routines are something you're comfortable with, or that they're flexible to change their routines. For instance, I have 2 different entrances to the neighborhood that I live in, and I always enter in one, and my husband always enters in another. And that's because he parks on the street, and if he enters his way, then he can easily park in front of our house. Whenever I drive his car, I always forget and enter in on my entrance. It's just my routine to do that. And then I'm always like, oh, I should have entered the other way and I have to turn around. I would love it if somebody was there reminding me, don't do your normal routine, do something different. It would be fine with me. I'd be happy to do that. Many care providers are happy to go outside of their normal routine as long as the mom is low risk and everything's going well. They're happy to do things different. But you want to make sure that you have a care provider like that. If their routines are not what you're comfortable with, are they comfortable going outside of theirs? And if not, you might want to pick a different care provider, or else you're going to end up with what they always do. And if it's not what you want, you're not going to be happy with it. This is what this class series is all about, finding out what you want and then seeing if your care provider can provide it for you. Throughout these childbirth choice segments, we are going to have a lot of different choices presented to you. And during your birthing time, it might be difficult to remember all the pros and cons of each intervention offered. So I'm going to teach you some good questions to ask that will help to remember what you've learned and help you to make the best decision in that time when you're making it. The main things to remember, the first question to always ask is, Mom okay? And is baby okay? And if the answer to these questions is yes, that means you have plenty of time to make a decision regarding the intervention suggested. If the answer is no, well, that definitely means that choices need to be made more quickly and you don't have as much time. But just asking these questions, is mom okay, is baby okay, is going to give you a good guideline of where to go from there. The next thing to remember is an acronym, BRAINED, which seems a little silly, but look over there, or a little cartoon if you're watching the video, and we see, if I only had a Brian. No, you remember, oh, brain. So you're going to use your brain to make decisions and make choices during your birth. So what does BRAINED stand for? The B stands for benefits. What are the benefits of this intervention being offered? With almost any intervention, there's always pros and cons. There typically is a benefit in certain situations. So you want to know, what is the benefit? And then you also want to know R, what are the risks of this intervention? Now, I have found as a doula that often when you ask for the risks, they sometimes gloss over them because typically if they're offering an intervention, they want you to do what they're suggesting. So that's why it's good to take this course ahead of time, so when they start talking about things, connections will be in your brain and you'll be like, oh wait, I remember learning about this, and then you can ask a follow-up question. For the next thing, we have A. What are the alternatives to the intervention being offered? Oftentimes there are alternatives. Let's say they want to speed up your birthing time and want to offer you Pitocin. Well, you can say, what are my alternatives? And maybe an alternative to help speed things up would be to walk the halls. And so that would be a nice alternative to try before you make the choice of Pitocin. Thank you for watching part 1 of the introduction. Please visit the next link so that you can watch the second part.